everyone. I'm Ashley McManus, Director of Marketing at Affectiva. Welcome to Affectiva Asks, a human-centric AI podcast, where each episode we will interview a thought leader doing cutting-edge work in the AI space. A little bit about us. Affectiva is the pioneer of human perception AI, software that can detect nuanced human emotions, complex cognitive states, behaviors, activities, and interactions. And Affectiva is applying this technology to advance the next generation of multimodal in-cabin sensing. Today's episode features John Pelliccio, Head of Product Communications, Automotive Systems at Bose Corporation. During the interview, he talks to us a bit about his background, the challenges auto manufacturers face with regard to audio within the vehicle, and how understanding something as simple as audio can make a huge difference in your automotive experience. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. With me, I have John Pelliccio of Bose. Thank you so much for making the time to speak with me.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ashley. It's great to be here.
First, tell us about your background. How has your career path taken you to Bose?
So I've been in the industry for quite a while. I've been working for Bose for 18 years. I started with an engineering degree. I have a degree from Worcester Polytechnic Institute in electrical engineering. Had always been interested in sound. So I've been a DJ since my early teens, playing, weddings and things like that. I worked at a radio station in high school. So sound has always kind of been in the background as a professional interest for me. But when I got into the workplace, I was working for a big defense contractor and was working on, wireless engineering. So the precursors to, Wi-Fi before it was available in every device. And light switches and dishwashers and stuff were all connected to the internet. Wi-Fi used to be a thing that you had to plug into your computer. And so I worked on the early versions of those when I first got started. I got connected to Bose through a car club, ironically. I had a 300ZX, a Nissan 300ZX, and I was in a club with a number of other people, one of whom was a guy who was a mechanical engineer working at Bose. And said, you want to think about coming and taking a look at what we do. Right? We have a lot of things that probably would be very interesting to you. So I made that jump and just never looked back. I've worked my way through a number of different engineering, product management, product planning roles inside of Bose. And right now I am the head of what we call product communication design, PCD, what other people might call technical product marketing for the Automotive Systems division. So I have a small team of people distributed throughout the world. Our job is to take raw information from our product planners and from our market intelligence folks and our R&D people and weave that into stories that we can tell about some of the unique experiences that Bose has to offer in the automotive space. So, I've always been into cars, always been into sound. And so this is a great gig for me. It combines two of the things that I'm the most passionate about.
Very cool. Very cool. So, and like Affectiva, Bose also spun out of MIT. Maybe you could talk a bit about, MIT and its influence on how you got started in the automotive space.
Yeah, it's funny, right? If you think about it, both companies are MIT startups. We're a little ahead of you. Our company was founded in 1964, so we've been at this for 50 plus years, right? So Dr. Bose, the founder of Bose Corporation, was an MIT professor. And had been for many, many years before he started the company. He's professor of electrical engineering and acoustics. He, at one point, the company got started, as I said, in 64. We had been building a number of different products, including loudspeakers, of course. And we got to the late 70s, 78 or 79. And as the story goes, Dr. Bose was talking with a gentleman named Jerome Wiesner, who was the president of MIT at the time. And the discussion that they had was about Dr. Bose's belief that if you engineered it correctly, you could probably make a better listening experience in a car than you could make in a home. Because a car is a very unforgiving place for acoustics. You sit very close to some loudspeakers and you sit very far away from other ones, and there's glass that's reflecting sound and cloth that's absorbing it. And there's a lot of different things going on in a car acoustically. But the beauty of it was, because cars were all made the same way, you could predict what all those things were in advance. And if you could predict them and correct for them, you could make a really amazing listening experience inside a vehicle. So the president, right, Mr. Wiesner, said, you could continue to have this discussion academically, or you could try to put this into commercial practice. Literally picked up the phone and made a call to a guy named Ed Zaper, who was the head of Delco Electronics, which was a division of General Motors at the time back in '79. And they agreed to send a vehicle to Dr. Bose and his team. They spent 90 days installing the first prototype sound system in the car. And the performance that they got was so great that Cadillac decided that they wanted to put this into a vehicle that was almost ready for production. So there was a lot of last minute rejiggering of production lines and things, but the system was introduced as an option into the 1983 Cadillac Seville. And so from then, in the intervening 30 plus years, the automotive division has grown, and to the point where we're now in more than 100 vehicle nameplates around the world. So I like that story because I think it really speaks to the connection that MIT has with industry and the opportunity to be able to make those kind of connections and launch these revolutionary kinds of businesses, sort of like yours.
Absolutely. Very cool. So, and, I can't imagine that a lot of people are unfamiliar with Bose, but for those who are, and its applications within vehicles, can you explain briefly what your offerings are?
Sure. So as I said, the last 30 plus years, Bose has been making music systems for cars, systems that are centered around high fidelity music playback. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that generally we focus on the amplifiers and the speakers, those parts of the sound system that are actually conveying the sound to your ears, and not as much about the head units and the screens and the knobs and buttons and things like that. There are other players in the game who are managing that part of the experience. And so, as I said, we do this for a number of different kinds of vehicles, everything from sort of $20,000 B segment hatchbacks all the way up to, $100,000 luxury cars and sports cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was just going to say, do you find there are different audio needs for different types of cars? So like between a minivan or a compact car or a luxury car?
There absolutely, I would say there absolutely are. But at the end of the day, there are some things that are all the same. You always want to be able to be surprised and delighted as a listener or a user or a driver every time you turn the volume on. So in that regard, we try to make all the sound systems for any car we provide at any price point and any level of system complexity to always give you that surprise and delight. We want the music to be an emotional part of your driving experience. But that being said, it became evident after we had been doing this for a while that obviously the listening experience in a $20,000 B segment car wasn't going to be the same as the listening experience in a $100,000 flagship. And so a few years ago, we actually started to introduce the concept of product lines. So we have what we call our premium series, which is the core of all of our music systems. It's found in most types of vehicles. But we introduced in 2018 the first small vehicle series sound system, which used a couple of really neat acoustic opportunities, some speakers mounted directly in the headrests, which we can talk about a little later, I suppose. And some new door woofers that played lower and louder than any other woofer that we had ever been able to put into a door of that size. And so we were able to introduce a really amazing listening experience that was tailored just for small cars. And then at the higher end of the price spectrum, the vehicle MSRP price spectrum, we have what we call the performance series. We just introduced one, for example, in the brand new Chevy Corvette Stingray. And so that is a system that has a higher degree of industrial design, a number of different acoustic requirements to really be able to give you a listening experience that's commensurate with what you would expect in, a high dollar, really exciting type of vehicle like that. And then we also have what we call our advanced technology series. There's one such system on the road right now. It's in the Cadillac CT6. And that's our 34 speaker Bose Panarray system, which is really the Ne Plus Ultra, right? It's the absolute pinnacle of system design for us and system implementation. It's really difficult to package a system like that, though, in a vehicle, and so we don't do very many of those. But if you want to listen to just an amazing sounding listening experience in a vehicle, the Cadillac CT6 with the Panarray system would be a great place to start.
Very cool. So, and I think you touched on this a little bit. Maybe you want to build a little more, but can you explain a little more the Bose evolution from audio playback to new ways you're looking to manage sound inside the cabin of a car?
So it's something that we've been talking about as a company for a couple of years, right? I think that there is there's a desire inside Bose Corporation to be able to not only provide great music, but to be able to provide a number of different ways to make your life better through audio. So if you look at some of the product offerings that have been coming out of Bose in the last year or so, not only are they things like Bluetooth speakers and sound bars, right? We're always going to do a great job with systems like that, but we're starting to focus on headphones that have multiple microphones in them so that you can do great conference calls, from home or on the go or wherever you happen to be. Systems that can reduce outside noise so that you can concentrate on what you're doing or focus better on the music that you're listening to. Smart wearables, things like audio-equipped sunglasses, frames, we call them, or even headphones that are designed not only to reduce outside noise, but to help you concentrate on specific sounds. Yeah. So if you're a little bit hard of hearing, right, you can wear these earphones, we call them, and they will allow you to focus better on things like conversations. So this whole idea of audio for life, the idea of being able to use audio to make your life better in a number of different ways, plays out in automotive by addressing a market desire, right? The pull for music is always really strong. People always like to know that they're going to be able to have a good music system in their car. And in fact, they're willing to pay money for it by purchasing a higher trim level or an option package in some cases that has premium audio in it. But we also notice that there's strong desires for things like communications features and safety features. And so we want to be able to have a holistic offering in a car that can address all of those things too. So while we've been focusing on being able to do great music since the very beginning, since that first 1983 Cadillac Seville, we started looking beyond music. One of our first forays in that area was into what we call active sound management, where you're actually using the sound system in the car to actively cancel things like engine harmonics, booms and drones and buzzes that make the engine unpleasant to listen to at certain RPMs. Yeah. We did that. We introduced that in the 2011 Cadillac Escalade. And now we're looking beyond just music into a whole new realm of really being able to control any sound in any car at any time while you're driving, because we think that leads to a much more holistic and enjoyable driving experience.
Very cool. We learned a bit about Bose this past January at CES in Las Vegas. Can you elaborate a bit about what was demonstrated there?
Yeah, it was great to see a couple of your executives at our exhibit there. 2020 was our fifth year in Las Vegas, hosting a brand experience in conjunction with the Consumer Electronics Show. We don't exhibit on the show floor. We actually have a venue that's downtown, about 10 minutes away from the convention center, because we found that it's a lot easier to be able to provide the kind of experience that we want to provide without 10,000 people crowding into your booth at the same time and things like that. So we have a very quiet, very subdued, kind of a chill and a respite from the hustle and bustle of the show. This year we had a selection of vehicles from across those ranges that I was just talking about. So we had, from small cars to sports cars and stuff that was available all around the world for music playback. So we had 4 cars, including that Chevrolet Corvette Stingray that I talked about. The brand new all-electric Porsche Taycan was there, and you had the opportunity to listen to music in those cars via what we call in-car theater. We had a huge LED wall playing some really great evocative imagery in front of you, and then the soundtrack to that evocative imagery was played through the car sound system. So it was a really nice audio-video experience. We also had a second floor to that venue where we had a selection of products from our consumer electronics and health divisions, including a couple of sneak peeks at things that hadn't really hit the streets yet, so can't talk about them here either. But everything from Bluetooth speakers to smart wearables to sound bars were on display because we want people to understand the breadth of the company and the types of categories that Bose is moving into. And then maybe most interestingly, outside we had this experience paddock with driving demonstrations, because one of the things we've come to realize is that being able to go out on the road with an experience is a big step closer to a producible reality versus sort of an indoor static video simulation of whatever that experience was. So we had a number of things that you could do where you actually got into cars and went out for 15 minutes amid the traffic and the traffic lights and the road construction and all the other exciting things that there are to see in downtown Las Vegas.
So I have a couple of, product related questions for you after browsing through the website.
Sure.
I encourage people to take a look at it. It's automotive.bose.com/sound with vision. There are some really cool videos on there. I encourage people to take a look. So I was wondering if you could explain for our listeners what the Boulevard concept is.
Sure. Boulevard was one of the experience paddock demos, the driving demos that we had out there. For context, last year we had a demo of a concept called Smart Drive, because some of these smart wearables that we sell, the frames, audio-equipped sunglasses, for example, are equipped with sensors that allow you to do things like track head position and track GPS location and understand which way your head's facing. And those smart wearables can use apps to allow the delivery of contextually relevant information by means of those sensors understanding where you are and what you're looking at and what your head's doing. We wanted to be able to extend that concept into the car by using a time-of-flight camera to track head motion. So instead of sensors built into the devices, we were actually using a time-of-flight camera in real time that would establish which direction your head was facing and whether it was nodding or shaking, yes or no or whatever. And that way, again, that app could tell what you were looking at and where you were. So in Las Vegas, we took you out on a drive and we used that experience to perform some complicated tasks, like literally ordering food from a restaurant menu. You could pull up to a restaurant. We had an agreement with a donut shop, a really high-end, excellent donut shop. That was right near our venue. We had a lot of donuts that week. And when you pulled up, it would say, "Oh, you're in front of this donut shop. Are you interested in ordering a donut?" If the driver shook his head yes, it would be, the driver would be presented with a virtual menu. So if you look to the left, it would be, chocolate. And if you look to the front, it would be apple. And if you look to the right, it would be creme brulee. And you could nod your head, at any point in that menu and order a donut. Literally, an order was sent into the donut shop and a guy came running out with the donut that you had ordered on a plate. So it was kind of neat. You were able, again, to use that experience to perform these complicated tasks like ordering off a restaurant menu without ever speaking or without ever having to take your hands off the wheel. So it was an interesting exercise in the relevance of things like augmented reality in the context of driving, as opposed to just wearing a pair of headphones or glasses and walking around.
Yeah, absolutely. And donuts are super important, especially the week of CES. So.
Yeah. And they were, boy, I can't say enough about how excellent they were.
Okay, so can you also share what the hyperlens concept is as well with regard to bringing Bose frames into the car? What are some ways this can enhance the audio experience in the cabin?
Yeah, so as you said, HyperLens is a way to be able to enhance the audio experience in the car, specifically the experience of vehicles that aren't equipped with premium audio. As popular as we are, and as many systems as Bose Automotive sells, premium audio is really only available in about 15% of the vehicles that are sold globally today. And so there are a number of cars out there that have very basic audio systems, 4 speakers, 6 speakers, no subwoofers. And so we wanted to find a way to be able to improve that experience via a brought-in device. So in this case, we're using Bose frames. As I mentioned, they are sunglasses that are audio equipped. They can do everything that a pair of Bluetooth earbuds can do. They can make and receive calls. They can trigger interactions with your VPA. You can use the speakers built into the temples to listen to music. But the beauty of them is that they don't cover up your ears. So as you know, headphones are illegal to wear while you're driving because they block out your auditory links to the outside world. You can't hear other vehicles. You can't hear emergency sirens, things like that. But with these frames, you can have audio from the frames overlaid on top of whatever it is that you're already listening to. So what HyperLens does is allow you to wear a pair of frames inside a car that's not equipped with premium audio. And it improves the quality of music for the frames wearers. It makes the image, the presentation of instruments and vocals in very specific places around where you're sitting much, much better because we have very precise control over the kinds of sounds that we can send to the speakers that are right next to your ears in those frames. It also improves the continuity of the experience. So think about the case where you're listening to a podcast, maybe this one, and you stop to get gas. Instead of having to shut the audio off and then pick back up where you left off, you can actually keep the audio playing. You can get out wearing the sunglasses, pump your gas, grab the mail from the mailbox or whatever it is that you're doing, and then get back in without ever having the audio interrupted. Which is, I think, a really nice idea. And that extends even to things like phone calls. So if you're having a phone call, you don't have to worry about, the seamless transition from in the car to out of the car, because you'll be able to take phone calls on those frames, and they can be inaudible to the other passengers. The other passengers can keep listening to music. Or you can do things like render warnings or navigation prompts or things like that are important to the driver, but kind of not really relevant to the other passengers in the car, right over the frames, so that everybody else has a much more uninterrupted experience. So there are a number of different benefits that they offer. That was a very popular demonstration at our show. I think a lot of people are interested in understanding this idea of how you can intelligently marry built-in versus brought-in to be able to provide better experiences for drivers and other end users.
Yeah, and I want to go back to a point you made on, how are you thinking about alerts within vehicles? So for navigation system monitoring, are there any considerations or research that you've done from your perspective that are important to consider, or insights you'd like to share on that?
Yeah, alerts are a really interesting part of the driving experience. Many cars have gotten very, very sophisticated with regards to the types of alerts they offer. So it used to be just very unsophisticated things like a seatbelt chime, right? Your car would tell you if you weren't wearing a seatbelt. Now you get alerts from everything for tire pressure irregularities to blind spot warnings to lane departures. So many, in fact, that a lot of people tend to get frustrated and actually, we have studies that say that they actually start turning those things off because they don't like all the beeps and they don't like all the continuous warnings about all these, really potentially dangerous things that are happening while you drive. So we created and we showed at our exhibit in Las Vegas a product called Bose Aware Signal Steering, which allows you to use the sound system in the car to render sounds in virtual 360-degree space around the driver.
Yes.
And we do that using what we call ultra near field speakers mounted right in the headrests. And when they're mounted in the headrest like that, they're so close to your ears that you can control independently sound arriving at your left ear and sound arriving at your right ear. And you can do some really amazing psychoacoustic things, right? Psychoacoustics being the understanding of how people perceive different sounds. So we can do things like not only control the apparent direction of the sound anywhere in a 360-degree circle, but we can control the apparent distance. So urgent things like lane departure warnings can be broadcast in a way that they sound like they're right close to your ears. Whereas things like maybe navigation prompts can be a little further away if they're not that important to listen to. And so we've shopped Aware Signal Steering around to a number of different OEMs. It's, not only is it being viewed as something that can actually be of great value to human drivers, right? Because I can render all those alert sounds and Bluetooth audio and nav prompts and things in places where they make the most sense. But it actually starts to ease the transition into autonomous driving as well. So we hadn't planned it that way, but we were very interested to find that a number of different OEMs have come to us and said, as we start looking at not level 4 and level 5, right? This really highly autonomous driving where people don't even have to interact with the car at all. But more like level 2 or level 3 autonomy, where there are certain cases where the car can take over, right? On a highway, keeping its lane or staying a certain distance from the car in front of it or things like that. But maybe the human still needs to interact for complicated tasks like parking or getting off of highway exits or things like that. You need to make that transition. You need to tell the car needs to tell the driver that it's okay, right? I've got this and you can take your hands off the wheel for a while. And the car needs to warn the driver when it's time to get engaged again. You're getting off a highway exit or what have you. So, one of the ways that you can do that is to use sound, right? There are actually 3 ways you can do that. You can warn the driver visually, with a flashing light or something in a heads-up display or something like that, a light on a dashboard or a message on a screen. You can warn them haptically. You can, shake the steering wheel or something like that, or you can warn them audibly. And the beauty of an audible warning is that if you have your hands off the wheel, you may be watching a program on your tablet or your iPhone or something like that, in which case you don't have your hands on the wheel. So haptics become more difficult, and you don't have eyes on the screen, the car screen. So visual becomes much more difficult. So audible warnings are a great way to be able to ease those transitions into and out of, level 2 and level 3 autonomous driving. So we think there's a lot of promise for that. We had 3 different vehicles driving around with a number of different use cases for the aware signal steering in Vegas. And again, we got a very positive response from a lot of the people that we showed it to.
Cool. So based on your work, what do you think that car manufacturers need to do or recommend that they focus on in order to create optimal experiences for car occupants?
This is an interesting question. I think that, in order to have a truly unique in-cabin experience, you need a high level of integration across multiple parts of the vehicle. So we started seeing this, for example, when, I mentioned that we were selling engine harmonic cancellation, 8 or 9 years ago. So this is an interesting thing, right? You're using the sound system to tame engine noise. So is it an audio feature? Is it something that's run by what they call NVH, right? Noise, vibration, and harshness. Should it be purchased by the guys who purchase infotainment systems, or should it be purchased by the guys who purchase, mufflers and things for the powertrain? So as you start to move into these higher levels of experience, a lot of times, this integration across multiple parts of the vehicle requires management by different parts of the OEM organization that aren't ordinarily talking to each other. So I would say that, maybe one of the best things the manufacturers can do, and we're definitely seeing, manufacturers move in this direction, is as we move beyond just music into areas that are affecting, HMI or, ADAS, advanced driver assistance or alert systems, powertrain, noise, vibration, and harshness, and all these other functions. It's really important for those experiences to be viewed by the car company holistically, and for all those groups to be talking together so that we can get that experience to market. You need to sort of work across some of the traditional silos that have established themselves in the automotive industry, and find ways to be able to look across them to get these experiences to market smoothly and efficiently.
Right. So Affectiva is also working in the automotive space to provide in-cabin sensing solutions to car companies and optimizing what the in-cabin environment looks and feels like. I understand you may have some ideas on that, especially in the realm of, different people experiencing different things in the car. Can you speak more on what you envision that looking like?
Yeah, it's funny. We spend a lot of time talking about the acronym is CASE, right? Connectivity, autonomy, sharing, and electrification, and how those 4 things are going to revolutionize the way the auto industry works in the next 10 or 20 years. So if you think about sharing as an example, right, where you see this now in Uber Pool or some of these other ride sharing type services, but it's entirely possible that we may get to a future state where you don't even know the people that are in the car next to you. And even if you do, right, if you have children, I do. One of the things I notice is that the kids are generally not interested in listening to whatever it is, that my wife and I are listening to when we're driving. Yeah. And so that leads to an opportunity for something that we call seat-centric experiences. A seat-centric experience is something that is observed or listened to differently in one seat than in the other seats. So that example that I used where we were talking about aware signal steering, where the driver maybe is listening to navigation prompts that are not necessarily audible to other people in the car, or you're taking a phone call privately in one seat that you can't hear in any other places. Those are opportunities for us to be able to create some really unique experiences for the times when you're not by yourself in the car and you have multiple occupants, whether those multiple occupants are people you know or people you don't. So we illustrated at our show in Las Vegas the ability to have a different volume in the front versus in the back. So in the front, you could be listening to music on the car sound system, and in the back, the volume was subdued so that people could watch movies on brought-in devices without having to contend with the noise from the car sound system. We talked already about maybe this opportunity for driver-centric information, right? The ability for phone calls and driver specific information to be presented in the driver's seat, but in a way that's not necessarily audible to other people in the car. The holy grail of this is what they call content zones, right? The ability to be able to actually listen to different pieces of music simultaneously in different seats. It turns out that's pretty difficult. The amount of isolation, the amount of reduction in the adjacent sound that you need to not be bothered by it while you're listening to your own stuff is pretty high. And what tends to happen is that sound propagates, it moves around in lots of different directions inside the car very, very easily because it's so small and so confined. So that's something that we and others in the industry are working for. But I think there are a number of really valuable seat-centric experiences that you can provide without having to go all the way to different content in different seats.
Mm-hmm. So if you had one takeaway for the audience listening today, what would you like to tell them?
So assuming that your audience are people in the car community, I think the takeaway is we're really excited to engage with you at a lot of different levels. Yeah. Whether it's a vehicle that's just about to go into production, we're called in sometimes to provide fixes through our active sound management technology for a noise problem that the car company didn't realize was going to exist when they started designing the car. And then all the way forwards into these forward-looking horizons, new platforms that are addressing, connectivity, autonomy, sharing, electrification, or some trend that we haven't even thought of yet. Bose has been in the experience provision business for a long time. We're very good at it, and we're here to help.
Awesome. Also, for our listeners, can you let them know where they can go to learn more, or if you have any other call to action for them?
Sure. You mentioned it before. I think if you go look at Bose Automotive, all one word, boseautomotive.com, that's a great place to start. Our website is really well populated with a lot of information about the types of systems and the types of cars that we have in the market, as well as a little bit of a look behind the curtain into some of the newer technologies, like the things that we showed in Las Vegas. You can also follow Bose Automotive on LinkedIn. We've got a number of followers that's growing every month. We're always happy to see that. And we tend to use that as a platform to push some new things out too. So I think either of those things are things you can do if you want to get a little more information about us or what it is that we do.
One last question we ask all of our guests: if your car could do one thing in the future to make your life a little easier, what would it be?
Cars have the ability to transport you to different places physically, but also emotionally, right? You can use your car as an escape pod to get you out. There's something very therapeutic about listening to music and driving around with the windows down and having the opportunity to turn the volume up a little bit when your favorite song comes on while you're out there enjoying the scenery. So in that sense, I think I use my car a lot to be able to make my life a little easier just in that regard. Commuting is a lot less onerous, and going to get groceries is a lot less frustrating when, you've got a great car and a great sound system, and you know that your favorite music is only a click away. So I think, we should continue to do that. It's a stress relief. It's, something that people can use to get some enjoyment out of maybe everyday tasks that they're not that crazy about, like, commuting or running errands. And, don't underestimate the use of your car as an escape pod or a relief valve, just to make things a little more fun in your day to day.
Great. Well, that's all I have for you, John. It was a pleasure. Thank you again so much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think this was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes out. I really love the Bose concept of audio for life, which John explained as the idea of being able to use audio to make your life better in a number of different ways. The desire for music while driving around is always really strong or even cathartic. I also liked his points on active sound management, where the sound system in the car is used to actively cancel things out, like unpleasant engine noise. It's really exciting to hear the focus of Bose evolving beyond simple audio playback to controlling any car sound to create the most optimal driving experience possible. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to Affectiva's Human-Centric AI podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes.
We are also on social media, so please reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram @Affectiva to share any feedback you have on the show and weigh in on the discussion using #AffectivaAsks. Don't forget to rate us and comment with your feedback to help make the podcast more discoverable for others. Until next time, thanks for listening.